Welcome, boys and girls, back to another video. Today's video is about the best car wheel cleaner. Does that even exist? Well, how is that for a headline? A wheel cleaner trashed my wheels. Often what is the case is I will go on the forums, I may even go on my own channel and read some of the comments. People will talk about, for example, they tried out this car wheel cleaner and it trashed their wheels. Now, based on their comments, often it gives me strong suggestions as to what might be going on, which is this. Often it has nothing to do with finding the best car wheel cleaner and has everything to do with your wheels. So let me explain. When it comes to used cars specifically, and even new cars, literally between the point of when the car was made and when you took delivery of it, there is a lot of moving parts in there. A lot of hands touch it and you just don't know what you don't know sometimes. Here we have my wife's car. It's a Mercedes C-Class, a 2013. We bought it used, had 22,000 miles on it. So I thought, because in taking care of this car, I came across a very common situation, which is the wheels have been touched up. They've been repainted. They've been refurbished. Whatever label you want to call it, the point is that they are no longer in stock condition, meaning the original finish has been finessed. It's been touched. So what happens is that you purchase the best car wheel cleaner based on someone's opinion. You go to use it and you see some unwanted effects. And now, instantly you blame the cleaner and think, oh my gosh, the wheel cleaner trashed my wheels. I knew I shouldn't have gotten that acid-based wheel cleaner, or I knew I should have got a pH neutral wheel cleaner. Well, the reality is you may not understand the nature of the beast. And the nature of the beast in this moment is that you may not know that your car wheels have been refinished in a non-professional or a less than professional or less than ideal way. So let me explain. I'm going to bring you in and show you exactly what I mean, and I'm going to compare it to a stock original finished wheel versus this wheel, which has been refinished. And here we have our wheel. From this distance, it probably looks pretty normal. A little bit on the dirty side, but mostly normal. Okay, boys and girls, here we have our defective wheel. And by defective, what I mean is that whoever refinished this wheel, they did an acceptable job to get it sold. But long term, it's unacceptable because it is starting to peel. That's a problem, especially for a detailer like me, especially for you if you're a car owner and you chose what you thought was the best wheel cleaner and now you're getting this effect. And now you want to assign blame on the wheel cleaner when in fact it has nothing to do with the wheel cleaner, but everything to do with the fact that your wheels could have been refinished in a less than professional way. Now, with that said, here is the wheel on the front of the car. Not much brake dust going right there. Now I can sit here and scrape and I cannot get my nail to catch anything, partly because there's no lifting off of the paint. But I know because I've experimented and I've tested and I've dug in to verify that this in fact is a true original wheel that has never been retouched before. So at this point, the question then becomes, how do you tell the difference? And I'm glad you asked, how do you tell the difference? Because I'm about to show you. Here I have a basic cleaner. It's put out by Wicked Products. It's a citrus, what's called their Citrus Safe Touch. So I know that this is a basic all-purpose cleaner. So how do you test this to see if your wheel in fact is original or it's been repainted? Well, first you wipe it down, you clean it. Whatever that means to you matters not. Because what you're going to feel for is the texture. Now you have to understand that based on the age of your car, you may have a texture because you've allowed the brake dust to accumulate for too long of a period of time. Brake dust eventually becomes caustic and will damage your car wheels and stain them. So that's just the first point of entry, is that you feel. Because what you're trying to feel for is a texture. Now I get it that some wheels will not be perfectly smooth, but what happens is when they refurbish wheels, they literally prep it like they were doing body work. So what's typical with wheels is what's called curb shots or curb rash. That's the type of marks that you're gonna see on virtually every car. You're trying to park, parallel park, whatever, and you smack the curb and it puts a big old divot in the side of your wheel. That's very common. The dealer, in trying to resell cars, if it's significant enough, they call out a company that specializes in car wheel finishing, refinishing, whatever you want to call it. What they do is, in order to just get that car sold, is they don't need to go level 10 on it. Because the most ideal way to refinish a wheel is to dismount it from the car, dismount the tire, sandblast the entire wheel, grind down any curb shots that need to be ground down smooth, and then professionally paint it, and that includes the whole inside of the barrel, because you have to remember, now you have a completely exposed wheel. There's not going to be any of the counterweights on it. There's not going to be any lug nuts on it, no tire on it, so it's completely exposed, and they can truly refinish it to original equipment like finish. That is not what happened on the rear wheel, because what a dealer will do is they will call an independent service. They'll come out, they'll basically sand down the wheel itself, they'll grind down any curb shots to make it smooth. If they need to, they'll actually apply some body filler to a really deep gouge, and then they finesse it with sandpaper so that it looks exactly like an original contoured wheel as it's supposed to. Then they prime it, they paint it silver, and then, if you're lucky, they clear coat it. Now that wheel was not even clear coated. You know why? Because those chips, as I pulled them up, or scraped them up, it was showing silver. So that tells me that that's not even clear coated. Because these wheels from the factory are painted silver first, and then they're clear coated. Now you have to understand that the clear coat, like the clear coat on your car paint, in a rudimentary level is a form of plastic. So I can sit here and I can scrape, and it's not going to do any damage on the wheel itself. Now, hopefully, well, not hopefully, but this is where you do have to apply a little bit of restraint on your part. If you have an aggressively sharp nail, which, how do you determine that? I don't know. Probably the best way I could tell is if you could scratch your skin and cause some damage, you know that perhaps it might be too sharp to do that. My rule is this, is that your fingernails make a very useful tool for one. Secondly, are softer than most clear coats on paint. So if you just did this gently and you finesse it, you could determine pretty quickly if it's been refinished or not. Now, if it's not peeling or chipping or blistering, then you don't really need to worry about it. The point of the video is this, is that people will assign blame to a car wheel cleaner when in fact it has nothing to do with the wheel cleaner, but the fact that their poorly refinished car wheels are now beginning to peel and chip and blister. So that's what you need to do, is scrutinize it. So one of the ways is you just clean a section, and part of what you need to do is go inside the wheel barrel itself. Because think about the process of refinishing a wheel while it's on a car. They're going to have to tape off the rubber, the tire, so they don't get overspray on it. They're going to put little pieces of tape on the lug nuts because they're not going to dismount the wheel itself. And they're going to sand and prep and do whatever they need to fix that wheel so they can now paint it. They will have to cover the interior components like the brake calipers and the rotor. And they're going to finesse that and do the best they can. But inside the wheel barrel, they're not going to tape that off perfectly, because what they're going to do is just shoot the paint, because most people, when they're buying a car, are already overwhelmed with emotion, the price of the car, negotiations, financing, all this stuff. They're overwhelmed. Like the circuit, the hard drive is overwhelmed. So really, even if they look at the wheels, it's going to be a casual observation. And that casual observation is going to stop at the face of the wheel. So they're rarely going to scrutinize inside the wheel barrel itself, but this is where you can possibly determine if your wheels, in fact, if they're beginning to chip, blister, or whatever, You can feel and see if there's a line that you can tell, like, oh my gosh, out here it feels smooth on the face of the wheel. Inside here it feels really, really rough. Now it's going to be challenging because if you haven't kept up on your wheels, it might be hard for you to remove that brake dust that's built up. But chances are, if you're already at that stage where you're questioning it, it's kind of, the ship is already sailed. There's not really much you can do about it. I'm just trying to illustrate the point that based on the comments I see, often people will blame the product when in fact it has nothing to do with the product they're using, but everything to do with the fact of this beast that they don't even know about, which is dealerships, whether it's at the auction, the front line, whatever you want to call it, the dealership themselves, in order to get that car sold, they gotta make it look as good as possible. Kind of like putting makeup on a pig sometimes. They gotta get that pig moved, so they put some makeup on it so that it's appealing enough to move that car and get it sold. Okay, I will end there. I think I've scrutinized this area of detailing enough. With that said, by all means, give it a thumbs up. I would like to know from you guys specifically if you have come across this on your own car. And by the way, in the event that you default to a Carfax report, I'm pretty sure Carfax is popular enough that it's known nationwide, if not worldwide. So it's a way to verify, okay, what damage has been done to my car. And I've had endless people show me, hey, I got a Carfax report, and yet it said nothing about this on the Carfax report. Well, there's always a way to circumvent any oversight or regulation. So Carfax is just an entry point to begin to do what I call due diligence. But I want to know your stories. Have you come across this on your own car? Did you default to thinking like, oh my gosh, I just bought the wrong wheel cleaner. I should have bought a pH neutral, or I should have bought an acid base, or I should not have bought an acid base. I want to know from you what your experience has been. With that said, till next time, we'll see you on the next video.